Is the morphing mythical Mezomel mighty or mediocre? Hello, everyone. Bront CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we are here to talk about Mezomel. As you may have seen on one of my previous videos, I pulled Mezomel and Androck on my alt, so we are going to do some deep diving into how I'm using them on the account. I've been impressed with both of them, and hopefully by now you should have seen the video on Androck. If not, go check that out. But this video, we're going to focus on Mezomel. So Mezomel is definitely a damage dealer. Her kit is focused on damage. Let's go take a look here quickly. We have a decreased defense on the A1. It's got some pretty decent, good multipliers, so it actually hits pretty hard. We've got an A2 here that hits twice, ignores Stone Skin, Strengthen, Ally Protection, and Shield, and places a block revive. So this is very good at sniping, particularly for champions like a Monkey King or a Tormin. They can certainly be brought down by this. It's nice to have that block revive. It does not ignore unkillable or block damage, which is certainly a little annoying, but she's got ways around that in the rest of her kit as well. And looky here, I got 2 books into her. I got a damage book in here, which is absolutely amazing. I would have liked to get the cooldowns as well, but I don't have a lot of mythical books. Finally, we get the Moonlight Gift here, which is increase attack, increase crit rate, and increase crit damage for 3 turns. And that 3 turns is important because if you want to use this skill and then change over to her other form, she still has the benefits for 2 turns after that. So that's super important. And she gets the extra turn as well, which actually does decrease some of her cooldowns. It works out pretty well. It's overall a pretty great ability and can help her do a ton of damage. And the passive here is that she heals by 20% of the damage inflicted, and if she kills somebody, she gets a revive on death. And that's actually come in useful a couple times when I've been using it in Arena so far. Her other form is a little more AoE focused here. So the passive is it just increases the champion's attack and crit damage by 20% when they're in this form. That stacks on top of all the other bonuses you might get. So you're getting 50% crit damage with her buff, and the 20% attack is actually before the 60% increase attack actually hits as well. So that actually can help her quite a bit in this form. So she's got an AoE here, attacks and doesn't trigger counterattacks and does an extra hit on enemies under True Fear. This can hit fairly hard. It certainly will hit a lot harder if it hits that second time. Those conditional hits are often really, really massive. And this is a double hitter, places True Fear for 2 turns. Will not trigger counterattacks, which is nice on all of her AoEs. They do not trigger counterattacks. And this can ignore unkillable and block damage buffs. So, and of course I got the damage increase on this one as well. I got really lucky with the books. That's great. So overall, a very damage-focused champ. So there's really only one way to build her, and that's in damage-dealing gear. So if you're only going to be using this form, you could certainly put her in something like a Slayer set. You need at least a 6-piece to really make that worthwhile. I think she's better off in Savage, Instinct, Lethal, or even some of the Merciless gear would certainly be an option as well. Now, I've got her in 1-piece Slayer because I happen to have a really good Slayer boot. I've got her 1-piece Merciless because I happen to have a good Merciless thing, and that gave me plus 5 crit rate and plus 10% attack on top of everything else, which is certainly nice. And then, of course, we have her in Savage, so we're ignoring 25% of defense. Again, Lethal would work fine. Instinct would work fine as well. All of those ignore defenses are certainly great. The accessories are straight accessories. If I could put her in Slayer or Lethal accessories, I would certainly do that, especially Slayer can give me some of this additional crit damage and additional speed, or Merciless gives me crit damage and speed as well. All very useful. Or if I had counterattack, if I had better accessories, I'd put her in better accessories. I did not have better accessories. These are just the ones I had. I've got everything ascended because with your damage dealers, you really do want every single stat that counts. The build is not quite perfect yet. I would prefer to have crit damage here instead of attack percent, but attack percent is certainly a fine substitute for what we got here. Overall, her total stats, as we can see here, the same in both forms, which is nice. She's got fairly low HP. She's fairly squishy. A single 1-star blessing will get me about 9 or 10k more HP and turn her from squishy to reasonable. So blessings actually make a huge difference, particularly in nukers, so look out for those blessings for your champions. Attack at 8k is pretty high. She is a mythical. She's got a pretty good base attack. I've got a bunch of extra attack on her. Defense, not too exciting, but we weren't expecting that. I actually got some really nice speed on her, and she is an attack percent boots as well, so the speed of 224 is actually really nice. Crit damage here of the 192. I can get 20% more of that, although it'll cost me about 300-ish attack, so that's worth noting as well. So I can get this up to, 310, 312, and then a blessing of 4-star or better would certainly be helpful. I do not have any resistance on her. She doesn't need resistance. I don't have any accuracy on her. Accuracy is something I could see, especially if you're going for the debuffs, particularly the A1, the decreased defense, and of course the True Fears if you're looking for the True Fears. I think she would be better off partnered with somebody to put True Fears out there if that's what you're going to do to use those fears, because I think that as a damage dealer, she is better off just doing damage and trying to get accuracy on her. If I were to instead, say, go with an accuracy banner instead of this attack banner I have right here, this attack banner is giving me almost 500, well, more than 500 attack just from this top part of it as well. I'd be giving up 400 of that minimum if I were to go with accuracy instead. Over the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really seem like it's too much, but that is 5% of her total attack. That's a lot of damage left on the table. And when you're looking at a damage dealer, if you don't do quite enough damage to kill somebody, it's not going to help. Now, her multipliers are okay. I've seen there's places where it felt like maybe she could do a bit more damage, but overall, I've also still been fairly impressed with her damage so far. So I want to take her in for a damage test first. So I'm going to actually take her into Doom Tower, and we're going to set her loose on one of the floors and see how well she can do clearing the floor by herself. Okay, so we're here on floor 1 on hard. Normally, I would have actually taken her somewhere in normal, probably like around 119 or maybe 100, and just let her loose. I have a team that I use to clear the normal floors. If we go down here and look at this, I use this team just to clear the normal floors. It does a pretty good job of just smoothing through them. They can actually probably clear floor 1 here. She is going to have a little bit of problem because she is off affinity, and so the affinity does affect things a little bit. But we're going to turn this on for auto climb, get into the there, turn off the auto because I want to get that attack up, change into the other form. And all right, let's take a look and see what kind of damage we are doing with her A2. Not too bad. Almost cleared the floor just with that. A1 hits, clears again. A1 here, let's see how this works. Not a ton of damage, but again, I would have trouble clearing this with just that attack floor as well. She hits pretty hard, and without needing any decreased defense or anything else like that, I was able to almost entirely clear a single wave. A couple of A1s and an A2. That's a lot of damage. Let's go take a look in Arena and show a couple of use cases with her. I'll do a couple of fights, probably on manual, just because I find that the mythicals don't tend to do AI properly. And the way I would use her in Arena will probably really depend on what team I'm fighting. All right, so this is the Arena team I've kind of been using her in. I've got a couple different options. I've got a team I've built that's specifically all-spirit champions for some of the all-spirit teams as well. But this was probably the team that I would most likely use her in if I was going to take her into an Arena team itself. So you've got your Arbiter and your Siphi and your Armands as kind of a speed lockout team. So you get some speed, you get more speed, you get a lockout, and then Mezomel basically gets to take her time killing people. And what I generally have her programmed to do, and obviously I will manually intervene in this if I need to, but I have her do her power up to start with. Then I will have her do her A1, or A2, I should say, that will kill somebody and block the revive. And so this is basically, I'm assuming that there's going to be somebody in Stone Skin that's going to be squishy that I'm going to want to block a revive on. And this will ignore the Stone Skin and block their revive. If I don't have anybody that I need to specifically target and take out, rather than do this, I will metamorph, and then she will then do the Life Shredder. What I have her programmed in general is if I'm just not paying attention, or if I have this on auto and it happens to be in a 3v3 team, she'll do her buff, then she'll do her single target first, then she'll metamorph, then she'll do her multi-target, and then she'll keep on multi-targeting until she can metamorph. If she gets back to her Life Shredder, she'll do that again before the metamorph. Eventually she'll metamorph back, do the Moonlight Gift, and go on from there. So that's why I've got these as the lowest priority of the skills. So if they end up never using the A1, you end up never using the A1. So let's go into a battle and take a look. I've got a team right here that this should be pretty good against. We've got a Monkey King I'm going to want to lock out. We've got all the rest of the speed. I want to lock these guys out generally as well. We even have a possible chance of somebody to do block damage. So if we actually lose some of the speed battle, this could be bad, but assuming we don't, let's go take a look and see how she does. All right, so we load up here. Get Siffy to speed everybody up. Arbiter speeds everybody up again. Armands will steal all the speed and lock everybody out. And this Armands is in Stone Skin. I could take a chance that he is going to be slower than Mezomel, but I'm instead going to lock him out by sheeping him. I did get a turn by Mezomel, so we are going to get rid of Monkey King. Monkey King's been block revived, so he cannot come back and bother us again, so that's easy. Just whack the sheep. There comes Armand's back. And this is where the double hit is going to be helpful as well, because she's a weak affinity to Armand's, so that is going to be a problem. But because this is a double hitter, she's much less susceptible to a weak hit. So boom, boom. I even got a weak hit through it a second time. Everybody's dead. Nice and easy. So let's go find another team here. This should be a good one here. This has got multiple revivers and a UDK. Let's see if we can hit through this. All right, so we do our buff again, increase the speed, lock everybody out. Cheap UDK, perfect. All right, so now I have a choice. Do I want to lock out Monkey King or do I want to lock out Torment? And I think the answer is I want to lock out Monkey King because with Siffy tends to counter Torment kind of naturally anyway. And what I can do is if I don't think I need the extra damage, which I don't think I will, I'm going to skip this power up right now and just kill Monkey King straight up. We'll sleep the sheep because I can. Whack somebody. Lock you out maybe. Okay, your UDK is back. All right, so now I can do the buffs here. Transform. And now it's shred everybody. Okay, so didn't quite do enough damage to kill UDK. UDK is pretty tanky, but that does indicate one of the problems that Mezomel does have. You certainly saw how well she was built. Still didn't have multipliers to take down a super tanky UDK. However, I did the important job. Duchess is not there, so Duchess cannot revive anybody else. And UDK is almost dead at this point in time, so we're good to go. We should be able to pretty much put this on auto and be done. So Siffy will heal, Arbiter will do her thing, Mezomel will just A1, and yep, UDK is not going to revive, so it's simply a matter of taking out Torment at this point. And there we go. So there is Mezomel in a nutshell. Really good nuker. For this account, I didn't have anybody that could hit through Stone Skin. That can't be underrated. That is very, very huge ability. It's also a double hitter. So, for example, if there's a UDK in the way, she can one-hit a lot of the weaker champions. So she could certainly one-hit hit the UDK, and then one-hit hits somebody else. So she can get around UDK with that. She has AoE skills that can get rid of block damage and ignore the unkillable as well. That can be very helpful. Again, another thing that this account kind of struggled with, I didn't have a lot of ways around either of those debuffs. And the only real thing I wish that she had is she doesn't have an extra turn mechanic like a Georgid or a Supreme Helhane, and her survivability mechanics are things that heal her if she's already taken damage or give her revive if she's killed somebody, which are great, but she doesn't have a way to keep herself alive either. Now you've got Georgid, for example, who's one of the ones I use as an example. Georgid does so much damage, but he's super squishy, so he doesn't have a survivability mechanic, but he has so many ways to ignore defense and does so much damage, he doesn't meet him. You just need to figure out other ways to protect him, so it makes sense as kit. Whereas Leorius, for example, has ways to ramp up the damage, but they involve taking damage, but he can actually take the damage and has that unkillable that will pop up on him if he gets hit somehow. So she's a very good champion. She will help a lot of accounts. She can be a main nuker on an awful lot of accounts. However, she's also not one of the elite top tier nukers from an in-game perspective. Her multipliers could be a little bit better for as squishy as she is. If her multipliers were, you know, zero point 0.5 to even 1 times better, they would actually be so nuts that she wouldn't need the survivability and would be perfectly balanced. Otherwise, she needs something like an extra turn mechanic, or she needs something else to kind of make her better. And again, I'm complaining with riches here. She's a great champion. She's going to help my account. She's going to speed up some of these arena farming. She's given me some options to go against teams I didn't have options of going against beforehand. She is going to be great for this account. But you know what? We can be greedy. It's a mythical. Maybe she could be a little bit better. But hopefully that helps. Again, other places you might use her. Obviously, she's going to be used in all kinds of arena. You could certainly use her in the siege mode because that's pretty much an arena mode. You could use her for some wave clear if you're struggling with some wave clear. She does a good amount of damage. Obviously, I wouldn't use her solo for wave clear as I was showing beforehand. And particularly on full auto, you need to make sure she transforms before she goes into the wave clear mode because she's not particularly good for wave clear as a single target damage dealer. She can certainly be useful in Centranos as well, and she's really good at taking out your Skull Crowns, your other champions that need to revive, such as your Torments or your Monkeys. She can certainly snipe down a Leo, for example. She's really, really good at taking out some of those survival mechanics, which is great, but she doesn't have the greatest survival mechanics of her own. So you know what? It's kind of good. She feels balanced. She doesn't feel OP. And unfortunately, since there's so many champions that are kind of OP, it makes her feel a little bit lesser as a mythical. But I love her. I'm enjoying her. And hopefully you found this entertaining and educational. So until the next battle and until the next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.